welcome to another installment in the Maryland Realtors webinar series. Today we are kicking off Realtor Safety Month with Jenn Cassetta, who's going to speak about realtor safety and self-defense. As you have questions for Jenn, please place them in the Q&A box, and we will attempt to answer your questions at the appropriate time during the presentation. Thank you again for your attendance. We will send materials from Jenn and a recording of this webinar in the following week. For now, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Jenn Cassetta.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? I would love to hear from you in the chat as much as possible during the next hour. Think of this as a conversation about safety, not just a one-way webinar, but I'd love to hear from you. So right now, if you are up for it, I'd love to hear if you have ever taken a self-defense class, any kind of safety class, or realtor safety specific class. Tell me in the chat if this is your first time, or maybe you're a black belt in karate, who knows, but I would love to hear from you. Who's here right now live watching? And for everyone who will be watching this as a recorded version, welcome to you as well. Craig says no classes, first timer. Safety and self-defense for Sandra, excellent. Anyone else? Carrie, none. Usually, guys, I'll just let you know, it's when I speak to even hundreds of people at one time, there's only a small percentage of people that have ever taken any kind of self-defense or safety in general. But we have some here. Okay, fantastic. Second time, no previous experience. Safety and boxing, excellent. So just so you know, in the next hour, we're going to talk about the ABCs of personal safety, which is awareness, boundaries, communication, but D stands for defense. So we are going to get a little physical. If you're up for it, you can stand up at your home, in your office, wherever you are, and just get into your body and learn some self-defense, some basic self-defense moves. Is everybody up for that? Let me know in the chat. You don't have to turn your cameras on, but it would be fun. Okay. Welcome again. I'm Jenn Cassetta, and we are going to talk about the art of personal safety for realtors specifically. Rebecca's up for it. Good. Okay. So just a couple of quick stats to start out, which I got from the NAR 2020, the latest report that came out from the National Association of Realtors. You can find it easily online. There's tons of statistics, but I pulled specifically the ones that I think were important. Namely, 31% of realtors reported feeling unsafe at an open house or a showing. That is almost 1 in 3 of you guys, right, around the country. So 1 in 3 realtors almost have felt unsafe at some point. 40% specifically of women realtors experienced a situation that made them fear for their personal safety or safety of their personal information in 2019. Now, I just want to point out that that statistic to me is grouped in with something else that shouldn't be, right? Feeling fearful in a moment, in a situation, whether at an open house or a showing, is very different than fearing for your personal information. Would you agree with that statement? So I'm not sure who creates these statistics, but let's get the word up the chain, because to me, yeah, agreed. Very different. With that said, moving on, this is why I still teach safety and self-defense, and I'll share a little bit of my story in a bit, but of how this came to be. But over the years of teaching self-defense and training in self-defense, I started to dig into just worldwide and countrywide, nationwide statistics on assault. And in the US, 1 out of 5 US women will be the victim of some kind of sexual assault in their lifetime. To me, that number right there just drives me to want to get the word out even more, to empower ourselves, men and women in all genders, right? To be able to enhance your awareness and avoid danger when possible. Now, most of the literature that you would read on safety always also has another statistic that says most assaults are not reported or go unreported. So therefore, the number 1 out of 5 is actually probably underreported and is probably even higher. Now, when we team up with our sisters around the globe, 1 out of 3 women globally will be the victim of sexual violence, and that's according to the World Health Organization. Again, that's a lot of people. And men, you're not left out of this equation, just the majority of assaults that happen around the world are obviously with women. And speaking of, when it comes to realtor specific demographics, the last percentage that I found was 67% of all realtors are female in this country. So when you do the math and think 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4 out of this huge percentage of female realtors that are out there, that it can be, a vulnerable place to be. Now, obviously, being a realtor is an amazing career. You've all chosen such a great career, especially throughout the last year and a half. You're probably busier than most people out there in the world. But it's also okay, right? And it's okay to point out and to remember that your safety is on the line, and there are certain times of your career that can feel more vulnerable than others. And I just think it's more empowering to acknowledge it and then enhance your personal safety. So again, you can either avoid danger in the first place or know what to do if you ever find yourself in a dangerous situation. Now, here's quickly why I do this work. Back in the year 2000, 21 years ago, I stepped onto the mat for the first time in a martial arts studio in New York City. I immediately fell in love. Now, this picture wasn't on day 1, obviously, it was on year 10, but I loved the feeling of feeling strong in my body and learning how to protect myself. And in that same year, something happened that changed the course of my career. So I was 24, 25 at the time, and I showed up to work on a beautiful sunny Tuesday morning, 20 years ago, down on Wall Street, got out of the subway on Wall Street, looked up at the World Trade Center, and there was black smoke billowing out of the World Trade Center. And I just remember feeling completely panicked, but having no idea what was going on. So I walked the 3 blocks to my work, and the doorman essentially wouldn't let me up into my building. He said, you can go ahead and use the lobby, the phone in the lobby. So I went inside and I went to call my mother, and within seconds, the first tower fell. A swarm of people bum rushed into the lobby for safety, and I was pushed into this utility closet with a bunch of strangers. And for the first time in my life, there and then, I felt like I was going to die. My body froze. Right? I felt paralyzed and I couldn't move my body. I just remember crying. And a woman came up to me and shook me by the shoulders and said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Jennifer." And she said, "Jennifer, I'm Nancy. You and I were going to get out of here together today." Okay. And I immediately remember taking this breath and being able to move, being able to think, being able to go to take action and take the next step. So to make a very long story short, hours later of running from building to building, looking for shelter, covered in soot, I'm sure you can all remember where you were that day 20 years ago. We made it to the martial arts school where I was training. And for the first time that day, I felt safe. I was able to breathe, wipe the soot off my body, and actually take a few deep breaths and relax. That became a metaphor for the rest of my career. Essentially, all I wanted to do in those next 6 months was to get back to that dojo, to step on the mat, to feel safe, to connect my mind, body, and my spirit, and start to feel stronger in my body, more emotionally strong, more confident again, and even spiritually grounded. And I realized then that I wanted to share that with as many people as possible. Now, why do I even tell that story? Because it has nothing to do with realtor safety, I know, but I learned a really important lesson that day. And that was what happens to the brain and the body, the mind and body, during a fear response. And you've all felt it. You've all felt it you probably feel one of these things every single day, right? There's a tiny little bean-shaped thing in your brain called the amygdala. Let me know in the chat if you've heard of the amygdala. Its job is essentially to keep you safe. So it's always on the lookout for a potential threat, right? Or what it perceives as a potential threat. And when it does, it will start to send messages to other parts of the body to start pumping out stress response, right? Stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, right? Different stress hormones throughout the body, which are really, really helpful, right? If you need to run faster, your heart's going to beat faster. There's blood going to your extremities. So that can help you, like I said, run away, get out of a dangerous situation, or it may send you into fight, right? And giving you this power, this anger, this rage to be able to fight back. And that can be really, really helpful as well. But sometimes the last F is sometimes what we don't think about, right? We never think about what would happen if we freeze in a very stressful or fearful situation unless we've been there before. So if you haven't been there before, I can tell you this from experience, that it feels like you can't move, but there is a way to get out of that response. Thank you guys. I see the amygdala. Yes, exactly. So the fight or flight response, again, is controlled by that amygdala. It's in the back. They call it the reptilian part of your brain, the oldest part of your brain, which, like I said, when we were being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, or if you're walking out into the street and not paying attention and all of a sudden a bus comes by, right? You feel that rush of adrenaline. You feel the fight or flight response. It's a very helpful thing. When it's not helpful is when you're constantly stressed, right? When you're walking around stressed with your to-do list, stressed with the deadline, stressed by this pandemic, especially in the beginning when we had no idea what was going on, right? We've all been there. And when you live in that fight or flight response, right, you're always going to be defensive, or you're always going to want to just flee the situation as soon as possible, or you feel paralyzed. You just don't know what to do. So you start scrolling on your phone or binge watching TV, right? Those are kind of the everyday fight, flight, or freeze responses that we do. Only when you're in a very, very dangerous situation can you experience, like I said, that kind of body shutdown of that fight, flight, or freeze response. So there is one way to get from fight or flight to the prefrontal cortex, the newer part of the brain where logical thinking and creativity live. So this is the place where you want to get when you want to take action, when you want to observe a situation, right? It's the observer as well. And we call that the rest and digest mode. Essentially, for anyone out there that's really into science, it's your sympathetic nervous system or your parasympathetic nervous system, right? The sympathetic nervous system is here, the fight or flight, and then you want to get to the parasympathetic nervous system that, again, you can even rest, you can digest your food, but you can also do logical thinking and creativity. And that is breathing, right? Simply by using this one gift that we all have, right? You can get from that old part of the brain to the new part of the brain. Now, if you're in a very dangerous situation, obviously you may not have time to simply go into this breathing routine, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but you can take a big deep breath. So everyone with me, we're going to inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, right? Feel the stress, feel anything that you're feeling stressful about right now, right? Think about it, feel it, let it take over. And now I want you to on the count of 3, take that big, deep breath. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And let it go. And imagine if you were to do that on a regular basis, if you were to have breathing or breath work as part of your daily self-care, that can actually help you on a daily basis get into rest and digest mode, to relax the body, to down regulate the nervous system. So you can actually build resilience and deal with even small stressful situations in your daily life better than being in that fight or flight mode. All right. So if anyone has anything in the chat you want to share about feeling stressed in the last year and a half, or feeling fearful or scared and just using breath work, do you use breath work? Do you have a meditation practice? I highly, highly recommend it. Now, there are tons of ways to do breath work. Simply, I'm going to teach you one of the most common breath work patterns, which is called either box breathing or 4x4x4. Let me know in the chat if you've heard of those or you have a different one. There are plenty, but essentially all you're going to do is inhale for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts, and then let it go for 4 counts. Then take a pause and reset. Okay. And you do that at least 3 cycles, longer if you can, if you have time. And over time, you can even increase the number. You can go 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, 6. Yes, Bridget has a daily meditation and breathing app that she uses. So again, if you want to do it with me, we're going to do a 4x4x4 method. We're going to inhale through the nose for the count of 4, hold for 4, let go. You can let it go through the nose or through the mouth, whatever you feel best. Ready? Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold it at the top, 2, 3, 4, let it go, 2, 3, 4, and reset. Again, inhale through the nose, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 2, 3, 4, let it go, 2, 3, 4, and reset. We're going to do one more time. Inhale, fill up the belly, and inhale in the belly, hold it at the top, let the belly go, and relax. And if anyone would like to share their experience in the chat, let me know. Do you feel instant relaxed? Do you feel more relieved? Do you feel more calm? Let me know. Again, I highly, highly recommend doing this on a daily basis. This is how I start my every single morning, with breathing, breath work, to set my day up for resilience, to set myself up for logical thinking, creative thought, rest and digest mode. Okay, if anyone has any questions on that, please let me know in the chat. Now we're going to move into the rest of the presentation, which is the ABCs of personal safety, right? Awareness, boundaries, communication. The D, de-escalate and defend yourself if you need to. A lot of this, or some of this, is going to sound like common sense. And I'm sure you've heard these things before, but I want to say it. Sometimes it takes a story or someone else to say it in a different way for it to sink in enough for you to take a step forward, to enhance your awareness, to really put some effort into your personal safety. I think of personal safety like I think of health, right? We're not guaranteed any of it. We're not guaranteed your health and you're not guaranteed your safety. But when it comes to your health, you're going to do the things. You're going to drink water, you're going to eat healthy, you're going to move your body and exercise, right? Because you want to enhance your health, even though at the end of the day, it's not guaranteed. The same is with your safety. We can put some actions in place to enhance our personal safety, even though it's not guaranteed, right? But we can feel more confident and more strong and more safe while we're doing these things. So let's talk about awareness. This is my dad. On the left, he was a New York City detective, or a rookie probably in that picture, many years ago. And on the right is a picture of him. Unfortunately, one of my last pictures of my dad, because he passed away right after this picture was taken. Now, why am I bringing him up? Because when I talk about awareness, I want you to think of one thing. I want you to just remember the words detective mindset, right? Having a detective mindset. Let's talk about detectives, or anyone essentially in law enforcement. If you know someone in law enforcement that's close to you, or you are that person, tell me in the chat, because you're going to relate to this. And if you're not, that's okay. You're going to learn from it. Detectives always do a few things. Now, growing up with an ex-detective as a dad, so he retired from the force when I was little and actually went into real estate for the remainder of his career. growing up with him, a ex-detective, not fun if you want to get away with anything as a teenager, but I learned a lot, especially after I left the house. Anytime I would when I moved into my first dorm room in New York City, in the Bronx, my dad was there. And what was he doing? He was checking out the perimeter of the dorm. He was checking out the fire escapes to make sure that my windows were secure. He was checking out the lobbies and the exits and the entrances and making sure that I was going to be as safe as possible, right? Nothing's guaranteed, but at least the building that I lived in was safe. And everywhere I moved from that time, right, from every apartment, he was there day one to make sure that those things were secure and safe. So they do a few different things, right? They, first of all, do background work. And we're going to talk about that and how that relates to you. They also observe. They are constantly scanning for red flags. And they ask a lot of questions, right? Constantly outwardly to other people, but also to themselves. So quickly, how would background work affect you guys out on your job? Well, the minute that somebody wants to meet with you, the minute that someone wants to either have a showing, you want to make sure you know exactly who you're meeting with. So who already has a system in place that you're either Googling or using social media to find out who you're meeting with? Let me know in the chat. The other thing I'm going to talk about later in the presentation is the Forewarn app. I have no association with the app, but I think it's brilliant because essentially by just putting somebody's phone number into this app, you can essentially do a background check. You can see if that person has any kind of criminal record, etc. Yes, and obviously asking for their driver's license. So, one of the policies you can have in place, your office may already have this, is that you never meet someone the first time in a strange place. You're always meeting somebody for the first time in the office if possible. Yes, Jessica just exactly said that. So taking a copy of their ID and making sure that you have that. And right, definitely look into this Forewarn app, because again, I think it's so interesting that you can, I played with it just recently at a Realtor conference that I was at last week. So I had the woman put in my phone number, right? And I was like nervous for a second, what's going to come up? But luckily nothing came up. But you can find out exactly. She showed me someone who is actually another realtor that had all of these listed accounts against him. Very interesting stuff. Okay. So doing your background work, knowing exactly who you're meeting with them at the office first, getting a copy of their driver's license, doing some social media recon, right? Looking them up, Googling them, etc. Secondly, and there is this thing in the chat right now that's if it's a male. I just want to remind you all of a story of Beverly Carter. Right? Has everyone heard of the Beverly Carter story by now? If you haven't, I highly encourage you to Google the Beverly Carter Foundation. Right now, her son, Carl Carter Jr., travels the country doing what I do, essentially trying to raise awareness about realtor safety. But essentially, yes, may she rest in peace. She was taken advantage of, kidnapped, and murdered by a couple. Okay, so it was a man and a woman that were actually the predators in that situation. So yes, assaults are mostly, the predator, right, is mostly male. However, it's not always the case. So we don't want to always just have that in our minds that if it's a male, no, we want to be safe all the time. We want to check everyone out. In fact, I just went to look at houses in the Central Coast here in California, and a realtor said, "I'll pick you up in my car." And I said, "Well, maybe I should just meet you, at the actual house, and we can do that, in separate cars or anything, something like that." So don't just trust women 100% as well. Let me know how that feels and how that lands on you guys. But look up that story about Beverly Carter. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad everyone's in agreement there. So they do background work. Then number 2, detectives observe. They're always looking for red flags. So when we talk about awareness, it's heightened awareness. It's not just, oh, okay, yeah, I'm aware. No, it's I'm actively scanning for red flags when I walk into a property that I don't know, a strange property, when I'm out and about in general, right? My phone is away. I'm paying attention. My eyes are searching for red flags. My ears are listening. I'm listening to what other people are saying. I'm listening for strange noises. If I walk into a house and I think I'm alone, but I hear a door slam or a door open, right? I'm constantly aware of the sounds around me. And last but not least is intuition, but that's the other sense that we'll talk about in a second. Okay. Yes. Ask questions. Asking questions, again, developing that detective mindset. You're constantly asking questions outwardly to a stranger that you're meeting. You're asking them questions. You're asking, it builds rapport first and foremost, asking them their name, where they come from, where they grew up, what do they do for a living? These are all questions that are fine. They're on the table. You should be asking people, develop rapport, but also you're standing for red flags. So if someone is uncomfortable answering questions, that should be a red flag. A red flag also can look like someone's pupils are dilated when they shouldn't be, or they're sweating and it's cold out, right? These are just little tiny red flags that will kick up your intuition, which is obviously the most important piece of awareness, right? Our intuition, it's a gift. Feeling fear is a gift. Feeling vulnerable is a gift. This is a book I highly recommend everyone read. Has anyone, let me know in the chat, read The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker? This will be everything that I list here today, just so you know, will be available in a PDF, downloadable PDF resource form that I have for you guys. So that'll go out in the recap later. I also have a slide at the very end to give you the URL of where to find it. But Gavin de Becker, he describes your intuition this way, which I think is so brilliant. Your intuition is that subconscious mind whose job is to keep you safe. So it's always scanning, it's always on alert, and it's always scanning for red flags. And it can piece together information more quickly than your logical mind can. And it serves up this gift, if you will, this feeling as a gift to let you know that something is off, something's not right. There's something else to learn here. Some people get a gut feeling, literally in their stomach. Some people see a movie screen, right, on their visual screen. Some people hear a message. However you get that feeling, listen to it. It is there for you to protect you, to keep you safe. Can your intuition be off or wrong? Sure. But again, Gavin de Becker says that your intuition is always there for a reason. So I say, listen to it, ask it questions, say things like, what else do I need to learn here? Or why am I having this feeling right now? What should I be concerned about? What's the question I should ask? Do I need to get out of this situation as soon as possible? And if you do feel it, leave the situation entirely. No questions asked. You can, if you're with a potential client or a client, right, and you don't feel safe anymore, leave. Make up a story. Oh my God, there's an emergency with my kid at school. I gotta go. Whatever it is, leave the situation as soon as possible. Okay, so that's awareness. We're going to skim through boundaries because I want to make sure we leave enough space for our self-defense section. So physical boundaries is like this, thinking about your body in space, right? You walk into a strange home, apartment building, etc., anything, even in a concert you're going to, or a restaurant or a shopping mall, right? You're walking into a space and all those walls are boundaries, and they can work for you or against you. So knowing who's going to be there, exactly who's going to be there, every single person that's supposed to be there, right? You'll know ahead of time. know and secure all exits and entrances. So again, think about my dad, and you can channel your detective mindset through him if you want. His name is Anthony. But thinking about even doing a perimeter sweep before you enter a property, so you know where all the doors, all the windows, etc., any exits and entrances are, and are they secure? So when you are coming into that space, you know that no one else can come in and out by some other exit or entrance in the back or on the side, etc. Thinking about your body in space and thinking about those boundaries, knowing how to work them for you or against you. So examples, right? Easy examples to think about that you can then relate into any property that you're about to go into is think about an elevator. If the door is open and someone's in there and all of a sudden you get this feeling that says, I don't want to get in that elevator with that person, but you do anyway, and the doors close behind you, you've just locked yourself into, right, a boundary that can work against you because now you can't get out. And also we tend to do that. Like we don't want to seem rude, or, right, we put the other person's feelings above our safety, and we need to stop doing that. Another example is if you're walking home, yes, women especially, if you're walking home late at night or you're in a parking garage and you're feeling like vulnerable, like maybe someone's following you, someone's eyeing you, someone's too close to you, but you can get inside like your car, right, quickly enough and lock the doors, then all of a sudden now you have a space that's protecting you. So that's a boundary that's going to work for you. So the same thing if you're walking into a home, you're going to let the client go first, right? You're going to let them go into the bedroom. You're going to let them go down the stairs. You don't even need to go down into the basements or the attics or anything like that, right? You're going to stay close to the doorway. You're always going to stay close to the doorway so you can't get locked in to a boundary. And then last but not least, car safety, right? Are you still driving your clients around? It's okay. Again, I just want to make sure that you're safe. I personally recommend not, right? Meet the client where you need to meet them, let them follow you in the car. Good, Rebecca. And then especially when you're parking in the driveway, don't get locked in, right? You want to be either on the side of the property or some way that you can't get locked in. You want to be able to get in your car and get out of there as soon as possible at all times. Okay. Moving on, personal boundaries, obviously, this can be a whole discussion and conversation, but quickly, when I'm teaching self-defense, if someone crosses your boundaries, right, your personal boundaries, or gets in your physical space and you don't want them there, you have two options. You can create distance and space from that person, place, or thing, or you need to communicate what your boundaries are and say it in a powerful way. I want you to be the boss. You are the boss of the showing. You are the boss of the open house. You tell people what to do. Okay. And if someone is speaking to you in a way that you don't feel is, well, first of all, it may be rude, or you feel maybe manipulation, or you feel vulnerable in any single way, right? Then we're going to go to C and go powerful communication. But remember that you are the boss. And if someone doesn't follow the rules that you've set up, then they got to go. So how to powerfully communicate in that way? Physiology, tonality, and vocabulary. 3 things that must be in alignment when you powerfully communicate what your boundaries are, or when you need to powerfully communicate anything, you can apply these rules, right? Whether you need to negotiate a deal or set a boundary, think of the way you hold your body, the tone of voice that you use, and the words that you use. Sorry, so quickly, if you do have to set a boundary, right? First of all, I think this is a point that I do all the time, right? I think about my body language all the time, but especially when I'm feeling nervous, vulnerable, etc., or not confident, right? There's a researcher named Amy Cuddy, and if you haven't seen the TED Talk on power posing yet, please do as part of your homework, okay? If you have seen it, let me know in the chat. But there's woman, Amy Cuddy, she has a book called The Power of Presence. And she did these studies at Harvard where she put people in powerful poses. The one I'm doing in the slide there is called the Wonder Woman. There's the star, anything where your body is big, expansive, taking up space, right? Feeling powerful. What she realized after 1 minute of holding that pose or holding these different poses is that two things happened. One, testosterone levels rise. So testosterone, great for confidence. And cortisol, that stress hormone that I referenced in the beginning, actually decreased, right? That is super powerful, that the way you hold your body can actually change your body chemistry. So now they put kids in power poses before they take tests. I do it before I get on stage in front of hundreds of people. I'm always in my hotel room hitting that power pose, but also in a safety situation, it'll do two things. One, it's going to ward off predatory behavior because right away, shoulders back, head held high, eye contact, you're exuding confidence, even if you're not feeling it in the moment. Someone is not, it sends a message to not mess with you. And then add the other two things, the tonality and vocabulary, and boom. But it also, so it wards off predatory behavior, but it also helps your body or you convince yourself that you're feeling more confident even when you're not because of those hormones that I just referenced. The name is, if you just Google power posing, Amy Cuddy, C-U-D-D-Y, you will find it immediately. Okay, so a back off or get out of my space or do not touch me again or do not speak to me like that again, right? The tone of my voice is down. It's powerful. It's deep. It's coming from my lower abdomen, not here in my throat. When we go up in our throat, it tends to, we can lose our voice or we, right, are too squeaky or we're just not powerful enough. So I want you to drop down, go low, and we're going to do that in our self-defense as well. Okay, vocabulary doesn't matter as much. The words that you say in a very dangerous safety situation, the words are less important than your body language and your tone. Now, obviously in a professional setting, yes, words matter. So you want to choose powerful words when you're speaking up, when you're standing up for yourself, when you're telling people how to act or how to treat you, right? Choose powerful words. Now let's get into the D, which is de-escalate and defend. Sometimes in life, we're practicing all the ABCs. We're aware, we're setting boundaries, we're powerfully communicating them, but some creep somewhere wants to overstep your boundaries. Now what? Now you're in a dangerous situation. How do we either de-escalate or defend? De-escalation is essentially everyone just where you are sitting right now, put your hands up in front of you. This is kind of a universal sign for take it easy. Right? Take it easy. De-escalation, the goal of de-escalation is to get somebody who's at an intensity of 10, right? Or off the charts to a 9, to an 8, to a 7. So now we're actually going to play with our tone in different ways. It could still be powerful, but it's going to be a little softer. You're not telling someone to back off, right? You're telling somebody, okay, I understand, right? You want to deliver a little bit of empathy. You want to try and get somebody where they're at. Again, it's manipulative because you're not actually feeling empathy for this person, right? The goal is for you to get away safely. That's always the goal. So if you have to just play with it a little bit and trick yourself and trick this person into feeling empathy for them, to getting them from a 10, 9, 8, right? In order to create that space. So hands up. They can see your hands. They see that you're not calling 911. They see that you don't have a weapon, whatever it is. It's a universal safety sign. Then try and get their name, make a connection, then understand why they're feeling the way they feel. Oh, I understand why you're upset. Okay, got it. We're going to handle this. Okay, let me call my supervisor, whatever it is. Sometimes you can get authority figures involved, sometimes not. I have a great story here in LA. A man came into a Trader Joe's with a shotgun, shot someone dead, and held the rest of the store hostage, essentially. The manager, a woman, she did the entire de-escalation by keeping him calm, by using a calm tone, by letting him know that she was on his team to help him, right? To help the situation. And eventually she got the SWAT team. The SWAT team had now shown up, and she was going to talk to them on his behalf. They wound up being able to arrest him. Luckily, no one else was hurt. But I just think of that story in like, how powerful and how brave she was to be able to take that position, to get help and get the authorities involved, but in a peaceful and calm way, so nobody else gets hurt. There's whole de-escalation trainings out there in the world. So the other thing I can remind you in a situation where before we get into the self-defense, before we actually get into the fight, because in martial arts and self-defense, it's always, you want to avoid any type of physical fighting if possible, right? That's always the last resort. You don't want to get into a fight, especially if someone's double your size. You want to do everything in your power to get away before that happens. But in the moment, can we get back up, right? Another thing a detective would do, he would try and get back up if he's ever in a dangerous situation. So here we go. Safety apps, well, an SOS code. First of all, when you're doing an open house, do you have a partner, right? I always recommend everyone have some partner, but anytime you're doing a showing or anything, people should know where you are. So someone at the office, and or perhaps a partner at home. If you don't have a partner at home, a friend, a parent, somebody should always know where you are, right? And you can have these different safety codes. Now I'm going to make a joke of this because I'm sure some of you do this, but I've been doing this realtor safety for now 7 years. And I keep hearing that the same SOS code in different offices. If something feels unsafe, someone will say, okay, we'll call their partner and say, can you pull the red file, right? By now, I think everybody knows what this red file is. And put in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Let's think of a different SOS code. Let's think of a code unique to you and your partner, that you can call someone in the moment to get back up, that they know exactly what you're talking about. Now, that's one way. Now there are just so many other ways to actually get back up discreetly that I think are a lot more smart. For example, so some safety apps will do that. Great. Get Flare, I haven't heard of, but I have another one for you. Your safety apps, Forewarn, I already mentioned. Citizen app is this. Citizen app will tell you, it's user generated, and it basically tells you what's going on in the neighborhood. So for example, I live here in Santa Monica on the border of Venice. So I'll get notifications all day long of, oh, last night someone was held up at gunpoint just down the street. Okay, well, I'm not going down the street tonight. Or there's a man wielding a machete 4 blocks away. Okay, I'm not going 4 blocks away. So you should always know the crime that's going on in your neighborhood, and in the neighborhoods that you work in, right? Definitely, that's one. Run Buddy or these other different tracking devices will be able to share your GPS location with someone else. So again, you and your partner should be sharing locations. You can do that by Find Your Friends or Run Buddy, or Invisiware Jewelry, which I'll get to in a second. But simple GPS tracking will, at least somebody should always know where you are and when to expect you back. And last but not least, safety jewelry, which I think is brilliant. This can call back up for you. This is a keychain. It's called Invisiware. This company I love. Again, this is all in my downloadable PDF under the resources and safety tools. But essentially, they all come with this little button that if you press twice, it can call your emergency backups up to 5 people or bypass them and go straight to 911. Apparently, Joe is saying that getflare.com is another safety bracelet. Well, Invisiware has really nice stuff. So feel free to look both of those up. Okay. And I'll look at GetFlare as well. Okay. Here we are now with self-defense. Oh, good. Invisaware is an affinity sponsor of Maryland Realtors. Excellent. That's so good to know. I know them personally, the founders, and I just think it's such a genius, wonderful thing to have for everyone, not just realtors, but literally for everyone, because again, the idea of it is being discreet. Making a phone call and say, pull the red folder is not very discreet. And like I said, most people know what's going on by now. Doing this, boop, boop, nobody knows what you just did. And you literally called the police. Now, something about calling 911, I just want to remind you that depending on where you live, how rural, what else is going on in the town that day, 911 can take up to 15 minutes to get to you, right? So a lot can happen in 15 minutes. And that's where self-defense comes in. What happens in those 5, 10, 15 minutes? If now you are actually in danger. So here's where self-defense comes in. Always, obviously, trying to avoid danger when possible, running, hiding, leaving the situation. But if you can't, and you are now surprised by an attack, remember that first thing, we always think we're going to act a certain way when something terrible happens, but remember that fight, flight, or freeze. Remember that you have access and you can choose which one you want to get to. Even in freeze, you want to take your breath. You want to remember what I said. You want to remember that slide, fight, flight, freeze. Okay, I was told about this. This is just my brain taking over. This is just a signal. And I know that with some breath, I can take action. I can figure out the next step. I can make a decision of what to do next to keep myself safe. So for your basic self-defense class right now that we're going to do for 10 minutes, I'm going to teach you the basic. If you want to learn more, I have an online course that I'll show you after this page. You want to know your weapons on your body, right? And the next slide is non-lethal safety tools that you can use, but I'm talking your actual body. So you have your mouth that's going to yell and scream and bite, right? Someone's hand might come over your face. You can bite that hand. You can bite anything that comes within your face, okay? That's one. 2 is going to be your nails, your fingers, the palm, a palm strike, sorry, the heel of your palm. A fist, we're only going to punch soft targets, I'll explain in a second. You have elbows and knees, great weapons, especially for women. Right? And then obviously your feet for kicking and stomping and whatever else you need to do. So those are your weapons. Then you need to know your targets. There are plenty of targets, pressure points, all that fancy stuff. You don't need to know all of that. All you need to know right now is eyes, throat, groin, right? Say it with me. Eyes, throat, groin. Commit it to memory. Because if you're ever in a grab, in a hold, right? We're in it right now. That's where self-defense comes in. We're in a chokehold. We're grabbed on the street. We're in a home and we're pinned up against the wall. Where do you go? Eyes, throat, groin. Eyes. If you were to be poked or poke someone in the eyes, what's going to happen? Obviously, their sight is going to be damaged, but also it's going to throw the head back, which opens up that second target, the throat, right? Imagine getting hit in the trachea with a blunt object, with a fist even. Right? Obviously, disruption of breath and breathing. Also, on the side of the neck, the carotid artery runs up and down and brings blood and oxygen to the brain. So if you were to hit the side of the neck with an open palm or a fist or a blunt object, now we have damage to that flow. And you can literally drop somebody to their knees. Now, do not practice this at home, obviously, but practice on a bag if you are at a gym or something like that. Next, eyes, throat, and obviously groin. I'm sure you all know what happens, doesn't feel good, but what do those 3 things have in common? They're all soft targets, meaning you can do the maximum amount of damage with the minimum amount of effort. And that's what we want. We want to shock. We want to go to those soft, vulnerable places. So the grip might open, right? Again, eyes are going to go here. Throat is going to send somebody like this, right? Maybe taking their hands off you. A groin strike is going to make somebody go like this. Again, maybe taking the grip, loosening the grip enough for you to get away. That's always the main focus here, the main goal. So we have eyes, throat, groin. Knees is another great bonus kind of target when we have time for a longer self-defense class. And then we want to know basing out. When someone comes in for a strike, they're not coming in nice and softly and placing their hands around your neck, right? They're coming in hard and fast. They're trying to drive you down to the floor, into the car, onto the bed, onto the couch, right? You need to hold your ground and not go down with them if possible. So basing out looks like this, right? Starting here, something happens, I drop. I'm dropping my center of gravity, which is here. This is my center of gravity. I'm dropping out to the side. So now if you're with me, everybody, feel free to stand up and join me on this. We're just gonna do 5 minutes of moves, okay? So base out, drop that weight. Knees are both bent, slightly more on the back leg. Hands stay up by your face, always protecting your beautiful face. Toes are facing front and to the side, so it's perpendicular, right? You're making a right angle with your legs. Sit back, now come back up. Other side, practice. So we're gonna do that just a few times. 3, hands stay up to protect your face. 4, picture someone pushing you, right? You're being pushed back and you're dropping your center of gravity so you cannot be moved. 2 more, 2 and 1, very good, okay? That's called basing out. If someone's coming from the back to throw you down onto your stomach, onto the floor, you're gonna try and base out going forward. Right? Same thing. Hands stay up. Hands are also up in case you do go to the floor. Your hands are going to break your fall. Obviously, in a one-time self-defense course, I don't have time to teach you all how to fall. So you always want to remember that your hands stay up like this. If you were to go down, and remember, if you can remember to turn your head to the side, right? As you break your fall. You don't want to go down straight. Okay, so that's basing out. Always remember, drop your center of gravity. Even if you're in a chokehold up against the wall, drop your center of gravity. The next thing you want to know, if you're ever in a grab or hold, again, 5 minutes, I don't have a whole lot of time to teach you, but we're going to do it anyway. Everyone take your hands like this, thumbs parallel to each other up against your neck. Doesn't feel good, but I need you to remember this. Drop your chin to your chest and shrug your shoulders, right? I call it turtling your neck, like so. It'll give you a few seconds more to breathe. Now, if you ever find yourself in a grab or a hold, any kind of grab hold, a choke hold, a grab from behind, right? A bear hug, whatever it is, you're going to remember a few things. First, base out. Second, if you have to protect your neck, protect your neck. And third, acquire and fire. And here's where we're going to learn just a couple of moves, right? To acquire your targets and fire away. What are your targets? Eyes, throat, groin, right? So first, we just have fingers to the eyes, nice and easy. So all you're going to do is stand up and get into what we call a fighting stance. It's just one walking step, slight bend in the knees. Hands are up in fists. If you don't know how to make a proper fist, roll, 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 thumbs come across, keep them here. We're going to take one hand and we're just going to go straight for the eyes, right? Eyeballs, nothing fancy, super accessible. 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now take a thumb and just stick it in your friend's eyeball. Okay, good. Stop sharing screen. Thank you. Okay, what you can do is you can drag your own screen to make me bigger, right? If you just catch, there's 3 like white lines on the bottom, you can drag it out so you can make me bigger. Does that make sense? If you don't know how to do that, let me know. Okay. Got it. Great. All right. So we have our eyes. Next, we're going to do a palm strike. Now the palm strike can go to the nose again, which is a soft target. It's not the best, but it's going to do a little bit of damage to get somebody off. So now we're just going to do palm strike to the nose for 5. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very good. Now we're going to make our fists and we're going to punch, but we're not going to punch to a hard object, a skull. We're going to punch to the throat. Okay, so we're going to punch straight to the throat for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very good. That could also be punching to the groin as well. Next, we're going to do some elbows. So from your hands here, you're in your fighting position. Front elbow is going to come straight up like this. Boom. Okay, ready for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back elbow is going to come across the side of the head this way. Okay, so elbows are great weapons because you won't hurt yourself using them. There's a little meat here, there's a little meat here, right? So when you're hitting somebody here or here across the face, you're not going to hurt yourself. So from the back, boom, 5 times across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, guy behind you, and you want to drop into the groin, backward elbow strike. We're going to do 5 low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 5 to the face. So imagine again, someone's in a bear hug behind me, grabbing me, right? Trying to throw me down. I'm going to base out and then I'm going to strike where I can. 3, 4, 5. You got it. Okay. So that was elbows 4 different ways. Last but not least, our knees to the groin. So again, someone's grabbing me. I'm going to grab them back. I'm going to drive that knee forward into the groin for 5. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very good. Okay. I bet your dog is confused. That's amazing. Okay. So we're going to wrap up. I know that was a really fast, really quick, small bit of learning, but the more you practice, the more you learn, the easier it will become, right? With anything in life, we need to practice, embody those movements so they become your natural reaction, right? You're not just sitting there frozen, not knowing what to do. You're going eyes, throat, groin. And I have plenty of stories of women that have personally told me that they have used things like this in the moment and they weren't trained. They maybe took one self-defense class and they were able to get away from their attacker. Now, is that always the case? No. And we have to be realistic about that. But you can choose in that moment what to do. Am I going to try and fight back? Am I going to go into fight mode, flight mode, freeze mode? Okay. If self-defense is something you have not learned yet, I highly recommend it. I can't say enough how much I think every single person in this world today needs to learn even just the basics of what we did. I know it was really fast, but to have that in your belt, right? Not a black belt, but just have it in your tool belt makes you feel more confident that you can take care of yourself if you ever needed to. Okay. Some other little helpers, a little help from friends. Our personal alarms, right? A personal alarm can look like this. It can just clip on to whatever, your bag, your purse, whatever. It makes a really obnoxious loud sound. So close your ears, especially if there's a dog in the room, or mute, right? Not fun, but it can either alert a bystander or, have your predator kind of run, right? I hope so. That's the goal anyway, is to scare off a predator with any kind of alarms that we have in our homes. I think I would like a little bit more personal protection, and that's where I go to pepper sprays. So pepper sprays, the difference, there's 2 things you really need to know about pepper spray. Is there's a pepper spray and there's a pepper gel. And the difference is in the viscosity of the liquid that comes out. So a pepper spray, right? It's the same stuff. It's essentially capsaicin, a super intense concentration of cayenne pepper, right? So obviously, if you were to spray that across somebody's face and it gets into their eyes, their vision is going to be blurred, tearing, etc. But also, again, that taking their hands off you to go here, right? Softening that grip, loosening that grip so you can get away. So spray is less viscose, like just a spray, like almost like a hairspray. And the gel is thicker. So it's a more steady stream. So for anyone that's ever said, oh, well, what about being in a windy area? And then can't the wind blow the pepper spray back on you? That's a lot, right? A lot of ifs. If the wind is blowing the right way, if you're in a windy area, okay, then just get a pepper gel. And like I said, it's going to be a steadier stream. Now, the point of pepper spray is to keep somebody at bay. So it can be, someone can be up to 10 feet away. You unlock, figure out how you work your unlock from side to side. Sometimes it's a flip up and then a press down. Learn how to use your particular pepper spray. Sabre, who I do work with, and I endorse their products. They have a water canister spray, practice spray, that I highly recommend. If any of this feels like, first of all, tell me in the chat, do you already carry pepper spray? Learn, aim, fire, aim from ear to ear across an attacker. Great. Pepper spray, pepper gel, stun guns. I don't have one to show you, but essentially the only issue with a stun gun is you need to be that close to somebody. You need to be an arm's length away from that person to actually use it, because you have to make contact with the person. And also the person can still get up afterwards. Okay. I've been told that even by the founder of Sabre, who manufactures them, right? He's even a bigger fan of pepper spray because, again, you can hold somebody at bay. Teresa Mary, I'm glad you carry it. Now I want to make sure everyone knows how to use it and is comfortable using it, and it's out on their keychain or it's in their hand, right? It's not like buried at the bottom of your purse, so you don't even know where it is. So have it on you anytime, right? Anytime you're out and about. Improvised weapons, I carry it on my keychain just personally. Improvised weapons means the mug that you're holding at the time. It means the cell phone that's in your hand, a blunt object, a water bottle, you name it. I had a college woman the other day who said her friend broke somebody's nose because they went to steal their phone, and she had one of those like Hydro Flask steel water bottles and slammed it at the guy and wound up breaking his nose. So, I mean, whatever you can get creative. An improvised weapon just is that, something that you improvise in the moment. Now, does anybody have any questions for me? Put them in the chat because we're wrapping up. But here are some questions that I like to have for you, right? These are great questions that you can ask yourself. Remember, you're becoming a detective, or you're adopting that detective mindset. So you want to ask yourself those questions constantly. One, when you're doing an open house, right? Or a showing, do I have a partner for this open house or showing? Am I going to be alone? Who else is going to be meeting me there? Who always knows where I'm going to be and when to expect me back? Is it my partner at work? Can it be someone at work and also at home, right? So someone knows to expect you home. Am I aware, grounded, and alert? Or are you busy, distracted? Are you constantly on your phone with your head buried in your phone? Are you constantly worrying about your to-do list or your kid's soccer game, or et cetera, right? When you are meeting a stranger in a strange location, I just mean anywhere that's not yours, right? Your alertness is up. You are grounded, right? You're taking your deep breaths before you even walk in that house, and you're completely 100% open and alert. Have I secured all the exits and entrances? Do I know where they all are? Are they all locked and no one can get in, right, from the outside? Who do I call, text first when I feel vulnerable? Do you carry Invisiware jewelry? Do you have a backup code? An SOS code, an emergency code name or code word? Not the red folder. Let's give it up. Let's think of something new. Do I have a safety app? The Citizen, I completely recommend to everyone. The Forewarn is great. Anything else that you think, let me know what you use for safety. And do I carry a weapon? Obviously, non-lethal weapons are things that I recommend. And there's always the opposite as well for other people that are, comfortable with that. And I only say that, first of all, I know the rules. I don't talk about guns, politics, or religion. But anytime I go to a realtor conference, there's always people that bring up that other kind of lethal weapon, which again is not something I'm going to talk about. Okay, great. So learn your self-defense. Here is my self-defense class. Just if you go to my website, there's a button for self-defense there that you can find. It's really just $67, but you have lifetime access to it. So you purchase it once and you can keep going back and back and back to practice at your home, at your office. Grab your friends, grab your colleagues, do it together. Each video is 3 to 7 minutes long, right? Some are even shorter. So you can break it up and just learn in bits or however you feel best. Please connect with me, stay connected. If you have any questions, comments, stories, I'm a collector of stories when it comes to safety and personal and self-defense, please let me know. Get your copy of that self-defense safety PDF that I told you about. You're going to find resources. You're going to find all the links to where you can find these great products, this great book. I want everyone to read pages.jennifercassetta.com. I'm going to put it in the chat so you have it right now if you want to go there. I'm mostly on Instagram and LinkedIn. If you have any questions or just want to follow along, I post a lot of self-defense videos on my Instagram as well. Thank you so much for being here, for your attention. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'll stay as long as you'd like. If not, have a wonderful day. Dan or Adrian, come back on and let's lead us off. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, and thank you to Jen for all of the information and amazing tips that she provided. We will have the PDF that Jen mentioned along with the recording of this webinar sent to you within the next week. Our next webinar is scheduled for September 23rd, where Sean Goldfaden, the Vice President of Business Development and Council Land Services, will be speaking about exchange. We hope to see you then. Please register. You'll find the link in the hot sheet. Thank you all for coming and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your attention and your participation and all the messages in the chats. I really appreciate you being here and taking a stand for safety. Thank you to Maryland Realtors for taking a stand for realtor safety because it's so, so important. You're all amazing.